All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Jessie Law, and we are going to commence with our calendar for this afternoon, June 13, 2023 at 2 p.m. This is the Fulton County State Court, and we are addressing an initial appearance calendar called the Expedited Accusation Calendar. These are a list of misdemeanor cases in which individuals were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail, charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses. Upon being booked in, the prosecutor, which is the Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County, has already accused the cases. So this would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer. During this time, I will inform the defendant of their case number, the charges brought against them, who is their attorney if one hasn't been appointed to represent them, as well as to set a bond if one is required. If you are a defendant charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses, please remember the following. You have a right to remain silent. Anything that you choose to say during the course of this recorded proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, we have attorneys from the Public Defender's Office or from our conflict defense list who will be appointed to represent you. If you have or plan to retain private counsel, please let me know so that we can make sure we address those matters accordingly. Okay, let's start with the Alpharetta Jail. Is that position one, Mr. Sinan Actas?
Hi, Judge. I'm Jason Thompson. I represent Mr. Actas. I just got the warrant number today, so I haven't been able to do an interim appearance on the case.
All right, sir. All right, Mr. Actas, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Thompson. Your accusation number is 23 CR 003736G. You have been charged with battery, domestic violence from a May 11th, 2023 incident. Miss, let me see. I'm looking for my, there we are. Mr. Howard, yes, sir. First arrest?
Yes,
Correct.
All right, thank you. And who is our ASG this afternoon, Mr. Patrick? Is that you? Ms.
Not
Chung?
anymore. Not anymore, Judge. I'm a defense attorney now.
I know, well, hope springs eternal, but right now I think we have Ms. Chung with the Solicitor General's Office. Ms. Chung, what is the state's recommendation for bond?
Yes, Your Honor. The date of the offense was back in May 11, 2023, the location of the residence 185 Boxford Court in Johns Creek. On May 13th, around 6:30, officers responded to about a dispute where the defendant punched a wall inside the family residence, resulting in property damage. Within an hour later, the officers responded to the location again when the defendant punched and scratched his brother, Mr. Accus, when his brother took a photo of the wall that the defendant punched. The officer did observe a large scratch to Mr. Actus's left shoulder. The victim and defendant are brothers. They do still live together at the incident location. The brother did confirm the events of the warrant. The brother is the victim, and the brother has stated that this has happened in the past, but it was a long time ago. They've been in contact and living together since this incident, and no other violence has occurred. The victim has also stated he's not in fear of the defendant and wants him to return back to the office. Because the defendant is a first-time offender, the state recommends a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services, and no further violent contact with Hakan Actus, no alcohol, drugs, weapons, and 1 day of anger awareness.
All right, Mr. Thompson, any objection to the pretrial bond?
Judge, I'm asking for an OR bond on this. My client is on the spectrum, but autism. He's on a lot of medications. His mother is like one of the main nurses at what used to be Gwinnett Hospital. It's on Northside Hospital. My client doesn't have a driver's license. He rarely leaves the house except with his mother. So he's not a threat to anyone. And really, though, I know that the state has what they think they have the facts, but there's a lot more to it where he's being made fun of by his brother. So
Is he currently employed?
no. Guys really can't, he just stays at home most of the time.
I'm gonna do a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial. He only needs to do telephonic reporting. And I'll need proof that I'm sure there are programs where he can enroll. He'll need to do 8 classes regarding anger management. No further violent contact with Hanan Actus. I think it's Hakan Actus. And he may return to the Boxford Court location. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. He will be reporting to pretrial, but like I said, it will be a telephonic matter. He can have you and in his company, or he can have his parent in his company when they do their reporting.
And Your Honor,
Yeah,
I also noted, I forgot to note that although the brother stated that he was unable to join Zoom today, I'd still like to sound for the victim.
all right, Mr. Hakan Actus. If you're present, this is the moment to chime in. All right, that concludes this case. Anything else, Mr. Thompson?
Nothing further, Judge.
All right, Mr. Thompson, this case will be further noticed. Please make sure that you enter your appearance and that he maintains a current address with the courts at all time. I'm sorry, does somebody have something to say?
It was Ms. Strong. What is the attorney's first name? You said
Jason.
Jason Thompson.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Moving on to courtroom 2.
Good afternoon, Judge Law.
Good afternoon. Yes, go ahead.
This is going to be position 20, Ms. Wilson.
Which case do we need a Portuguese interpreter?
That is
Position
for Marion
12.
Hazen.
Miss Wills, which one?
Position 12, Judge Law.
Position 12. And does Miss Wills need to speak to her client in a breakout?
Yes, I do not speak Portuguese.
Yeah.
No.
Sure.
Okay.
I can dry stuff.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Deputy Francois, I'm going to let you make the arrangements for Miss Wills to be in a breakout.
Yes, we'll make the accommodations. They'll be in courtroom 3.
Okay.
You guys can do the breakout. I'll have Officer Norris go.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
All
I'm
right.
here, Judge, as the Portuguese interpreter.
Yes, thank you, Miss Regina. I do see you. That's why I'm trying to make that accommodation as soon as possible. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, we have position number 20, case 23 CR 0037548. Miss Emily Wilson is in courtroom 2, charged with DUI under the influence of alcohol per se, driving improper erratic lane change, and also a third count, which is DUI under the influence of alcohol less safe, stemming from a June 12, 2023 incident. Ms. Wilson, you've been advised to be a right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be, who would like to chime in? Ms. Kim? Okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Kim, you on mute.
Yes,
so-
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I'll be here.
All right, Mr. Howard, any priors, please?
6 total. Last arrest was 2022 trespass. On probation for that in Cherokee. 2017 DUI conviction and a 2000 driving while intoxicated conviction. That's it.
And who is Ms. Falk?
Ms.
Yes,
Falk.
ma'am. Mhm.
Yes, Your Honor. This happened June 12, 2023 at 900 Woodstock Road. The officers responded to a traffic accident where the defendant failed to maintain her lane and struck another vehicle. When the officers smelled an odor of alcohol coming from the defendant, they asked her how much she had to drink. She stated 4 glasses of wine. She did field sobriety and the Intoxilizer 9000, which had the results of 0.124, which is about 1.5 times the legal limit. This defendant has a dismissed 2015 DUI in Woodstock, a 2017 DUI conviction in Cherokee, and then that 2022 criminal trespass conviction in Cherokee County. We do have some serious concerns about her risk of reoffense, being that she has a previous DUI conviction and a previous DUI arrest, all within the last 10 years. For that reason, the state is asking for a $7,500 split bond. That's going to be $5,000 on the DUI per se, $2,000 signature on the DUI less safe, $500 surety on the improper lane. So that's a total of $7,500. No driving unless to school, work, medical, or court. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons. That's all for the state.
Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Miss Emily Wilson, she is 45 years old and she is currently married, and hopefully her husband is here to support her. And yet she is currently employed as a storage warehouse as a full-time assistant manager. She graduated from college. She has a bachelor's degree from Kennesaw University, and she's not going to be qualified for public defender's services. We would like to request for a maximum $1,000 good bond for DUI per se, and DUI less safe, and lane change, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Was there anyone else who wanted to chime in for this case? This will be the time to unmute. All right. On the driving under the influence of alcohol, less safe, that's going to be a $7,000 surety bond. The per se, count one, it's a $7,000 surety bond. On the driving improper erratic lane change, that's going to be $1,000 signature bond through pretrial services. On the DUI less safe, that's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services. The total bond is going to be a $10,000 split bond. Absolutely no driving. Ms. Wilson, you are prohibited from operating any motor vehicle. You are to surrender your driver's license either to the court or to the Department of Driver Services, but under the terms of this bond, you're not permitted to drive at all. Even if you appeal the license suspension, and they approve it, I am not going to allow you to drive under the terms of your bond. You are to report to pretrial once a month, and you are going to be subject to random screens for illegal drugs and alcohol. You are not to consume any alcoholic beverages and no illegal drugs. While you are out on bond, you are to enroll in an alcohol and drug evaluation program within 30 days of being released from jail. And you are to report to pretrial that you have enrolled in such a program, and you have to submit yourself to any treatment that's required as part of your bond. This alcohol and drug evaluation is not being issued as a matter of a sentencing. It's being issued as a matter of based upon your criminal record history and based on circumstances of this case, and is a condition of your bond.
Your Honor, can she have a telephonic report for pretrial services?
No.
Since she cannot drive?
Not at all. She has to report in person, and she has to make arrangements either with her husband or her family or with Uber or whatever circumstances. She has to report in person. She has to report at least once a month. And if she is required to go and do a random screen, she has to make sure she complies within the time frame set by pretrial. And the alcohol and drug evaluation is very imminent with regards to the terms of a bond. So if pretrial, if she doesn't enroll in such a program within 30 days, that's grounds to revoke the $3,000 portion of the bond. The next court date is going to be
June 27.
June 27th. Okay, the next court date is June 27th.
It's per judge.
Yes. Thank you. Next case, please.
Judge Law, can we have courtroom 3 if you guys can let them in?
They're having problems. They've been logging in and logging out. I don't know. It's holding for them. I clicked to let them in. There's something going on their end. It's not my end.
I'm going to let Miss Lewis manage that. If you want to chat with her, just to see what's the status of courtroom 3. Our next case, I can go to ACDC right now. Who do we have at ACDC?
Judge Law, real quick for Ms. Wilson, position 20, the very first charge was 7,000 good bond.
Correct.
Okay.
2,000 on the 2,000 on count 3 DUI less safe, and 1,000 on the improper erratic name change. Count 2 and 3 are signature bonds for pre-trial.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
ACDC, who do we have, Deputy Milton? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ms. Haynes, Debbie Haynes.
Okay. And this is position 8, case number 23 CR 003-755G. Ms. Hayes is charged with possession and use of a drug-related object from May 3rd, 2023. Ms. Hayes, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. McLeod. Who is the prosecutor in this matter? Mr. Robinson? All right.
Yes, ma'am. Jordan Robinson. On May 4th, 2023, police approached 3 individuals, including Ms. Haynes. They noticed her and the individuals switched their positions, which caused him to believe that they had been dealing with narcotics. So once he approached them, he noticed a much longer than usual glass pipe used for ingestion of illicit or illegal narcotics in Debbie Haynes' purse. We've taken note that Ms. Debbie Haynes has been in jail for about 41 days, which is why we're asking right now for a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services and no alcohol, drugs, and weapons.
All right. Ms. McLeod, I'm actually going to first confirm, Mr. Howard, does she still have the probation hold with Judge Dunaway of Fulton Superior Court?
I don't know. I just know she's been in custody since May.
18 SC 163-719.
I'll look at it.
All right, Ms. McLeod, if that probation hold is still there, I'm going to put a $3,000 signature bond through the jail and a release to the probation hold.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Right, and just to reiterate, that case number is 18 SC 163-719. I see a probation hold, so unless something to the contrary.
Your Honor, the bench warrant was voided on June 12th, 2023 on that case.
Oh, okay.
And there was a probation revocation order filed on June 12th as well, where the defendant admitted to the offense, was given 30 days on June 9th, 2023.
Okay. So so she's going to be serving time out on the probation hold. So I'm going to do a $3,000 signature bond through the jail, and her next court date will be sent to her. Whatever address. Ms. McLeod, do you have an address on her?
Yes. I do not, Your Honor.
Do you have a good address, Ms. Haynes?
Yes.
And what is it?
1891 Fairwood.
What?
Is that 1891? Let me see. 1891. 1891. See, I had a screw. I can't. I mean, 89.
Hang on. Hang on. I have a Cortlandt Street exit address.
There's my ID when I had my ID.
Can you tell me the last 4 numbers of your phone number?
44 600 7303.
Okay. So Ms. McLeod, we don't have a good address or a good contact information on Ms. Hayes.
No, we don't.
I'm still going to maintain the release through the jail, but we'll need to have that information updated, because if once she's released on her probation hold and if she fails to appear in court, well, you know that we're going to have another situation on a bench warrant.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, if I may. The defendant actually was given credit for time served from May 3rd to present. So she is served that 30 days. She will be released today. She was also in that same probation revocation told she has 1 month to enter into and complete mercy care.
Okay. I'm still gonna do the 3,000 and Ms. Hayes,
Yes,
you'll need to get a good address and update
yeah,
the report.
I just can't remember, but I got address. They know, when I get out, they know my address.
Miss McLeod, I'm not certain how, Deputy Milton,
Excuse me.
Yes, Your Honor.
can you please make sure that Miss Hayes gets, Miss McLeod's number so that she can update her attorney? I mean,
Yes,
that's
Your
the
Honor.
way. All right,
Your
thank
Honor,
you.
Your Honor,
Yeah.
my client had indicated that if there were no holds and she would get out of jail, she would accept the state's plea offer. So I had texted Deputy Falk to find out whether or not there was a hold.
Well, as we know, right now, she's going to be imminently released on the probation hold. So, I don't know if you want to communicate with Miss Falk about this offer. And
I
the
did, Your Honor.
paperwork. Okay.
I did. I was just waiting for clarification on whether there were holds or not.
Okay, in that case, you will need to assist Miss Haynes with the plea offer. To tell you the truth right now, I'm just gazing at this case at first blush. I don't think she's going to do a plea offer right now.
Excuse me, Jones Avenue.
Okay, please be quiet.
Excuse me.
Ms. McLeod, I really question.
I understand, Your Honor. We do need a good address for her.
Okay. All right. Ms. Haynes, you will need to speak to your attorney, Ms. McLeod, okay?
Yes.
All right.
No conditions, Judge.
No conditions, thank you. All right, but she's already got conditions in the probation matter, so she's got another fire put out. Next case, please.
This is gonna be position 19, Wingfield.
What's the last name again?
Wingfield, position 19.
That's position 21.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I apologize. Yes, my bad.
That's all right. By the way, who is Mr. Patrick's client? We're still treating him like a prosecutor, so I need to make sure we start treating him like a defense attorney. So.
I appreciate that, Judge.
You're welcome.
I represent Mr. Colin Lipman.
Lipman, okay. Francois, do we have a Lipman in courtroom too?
Lipman, yes.
Okay, we'll take him up next. Right now I have Tarika Wingfield, accused of theft by taking, 23 CR 003-752J, and the alleged incidents from June 12th, 2023. Ms. Wingfield, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim. And
Yes,
Mr. Howard, any priors, please?
Second arrest, 2021, shoplifting, no law.
Okay, thank you.
She's wanted out of DeKalb County.
And she's got a DeKalb hold, felony or misdemeanor?
It's trespass.
Right, thank you. Ms. Falk?
Yes, Your Honor. So this happened June 12th, 2023 at Family Dollar at 6385 Old National Highway, South Fulton. Officers spoke with both Byron Marani, the regional manager, and Valencia Neal, the local manager, who stated that the defendant had admitted to stealing approximately $1,000 from the family dollar, $700 on the 11th, and $300 on the 12th by doing transactions to her Cash App. She both wrote a statement to the manager stating she had taken the money, and they presented video footage to the officers showing her making the fraudulent transactions. We're actually showing she has 2 foreign holds, one from Chamblee Police Department and one from DeKalb County. And she has a current $1,000 preset bond. We are agreeable to reducing that to a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services with the release to the holds only, that she stay away from the Family Dollar at 6385 Old National Highway in South Fulton, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons.
Okay. Any objection, Ms. Kim?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Wingfield, your bond for this Fulton County case is going to be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services.
Judge, can you send that through the jail? She got a hold.
Well, it's going to be
And a lot of time when people get out, they forget to report the pretrial once they go to their hold.
Your Honor, I understand the state requested this even in light of the fact she has a previous theft by shoplifting, so she could be released to the holds, but we do want to have some kind of monitoring here.
Well, let me amend that. It's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services. I'm only going to allow telephonic reporting. All right, she doesn't have to report in person, but she is going to be released to the DeKalb County hold. I don't know if the Chambly hold is duplicative because Chambly is also in DeKalb, I believe, portion of it. So I'm going to have her released to the DeKalb County hold. And once they resolve the DeKalb County case, Ms. Wingfield, you'll be reporting to Fulton County pretrial by telephone once a month. You are to stay away from every business that has the word Family Dollar in its sentence. Do you understand? You are to stay away from all businesses in all cities in the state of Georgia that have the name Family Dollar in its title.
Okay.
And your next court date will be sent to you at your current address. And the one we have presently is in Turquoise Trail. Is that still your current address?
Yes.
All right. So do keep in mind that you would have to report telephonically once a month, and you will have to can only be released to the hold, so you won't be released right away. Stay away from all Family Dollar stores, and your next court date will be sent to you at the Turquoise Trail address. Thank you. Mr. Patrick for Mr. Lippman.
Yeah, that'll be per judge.
Yes, sir.
Position 11, Littman.
We have Colin Lippman, accused of simple battery from June 11th, 2023. Mr. Lippman, you have been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Lance Patrick. And your case number is 23 CR 003-741C. Mr. Howard, any priors?
2020 possession of marijuana, second degree, possession of drug paraphernalia. That's it.
All right. And 2001. All right. Yes, Miss. I'm just trying to. Mr. Prosecutor, Miss Herring. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Afternoon, Judge. Yes, this incident, Mr. Lippman, incident June 11th of this year at 693 Peachtree Street, Northeast Atlanta. The alleged victim in this case is Takesha Johnson. The officers responded to the location. The victim was a security guard, indicated the defendant had been drinking. He asked for access to the elevator. She gave it to him. Instead of going to his room, he went to another, made contact with Mr. I guess this is victim. Oh, Ms. Johnson made contact with Mr. Lipton when he tried to enter the other room, his girlfriend's room. And that is when the defendant insisted that the victim was trying to get with his girlfriend. He grabbed the victim's arm tightly near wrist, causing pain. As far as intimidation, the defendant lives at the same place where the victim works as a security guard, where our records show he has one 2020 arrest out of Alabama. I don't see any convictions in his GCIC, NCIC, only showed 3 arrest cycles. The bond recommendation is $2,500 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons.
All right.
And that's all.
Mr. Patrick?
Yes, Your Honor. The arrests we heard from in Alabama, those are routinely null-prossed in Fulton County. Had he chosen to go to Georgia Tech instead of Auburn, we would have dismissed a misdemeanor marijuana. I did it all the time when I was in the solicitor's office. You hear no history of violence, no history of an inability to control himself. There's no damage done to the property. We would proffer that evidence would show that he was respectful to the alleged victim and the officers once arrived. We would ask that that Mr. Lippman be given a $2,500 signature bond through the jail. Your Honor, we asked for it to be through the jail. He's a junior at Georgia State. He works for his father's roofing company, requiring some travel. The facts of this case, his history, and the fact that there's really no evidence that he would pose a threat to the witnesses, no indication he would not return to court. He's a multi-generational Atlanta family, graduated from Lambert High School. Parents live in the area. Girlfriend lives in Atlanta proper. He's a college student in Atlanta. His father's business is in Atlanta. He works with his father, and Mr. Lippman is on the line here, identified as Bill. I'm quite certain Mr. Lippman will be keeping an eye on his son, making sure he returns. Clearly, we don't object to no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, as that is a standard order of any bond in this court, and we respect the court's decisions. Because of his youth, we don't want to place any additional burden on his parents, though, to post a monetary bond. However, if the court is disinclined to give him a signature bond through the jail, we would prefer the $2,500 bond to reporting to pretrial services, as that would place a great burden on his father and on him, both while working and going to school.
Does he attend the main campus downtown?
Yes, Your Honor.
And where is this place of employment?
The offices are, I believe they're in Suwanee, but it's a roofing company, so whoever's house.
Anywhere besides having to report to Suwanee.
Yes, anyone who needs a roof, and as the summer storm season approaches, I imagine.
And is he attending summer classes?
I believe that he is.
Let me find out. Mr. Lippman or Miss Lippman or Colin, are you all attending summer classes?
He is just working this summer.
Okay.
Just working this summer, yes.
I've been trying to just work this summer. Yes, ma'am, getting everything acclimated. And the last day to register was June 5th. So I have passed the deadline for summer classes.
Oh,
but however, Judge, he will be re-enrolling in the fall, and
understood.
And so this case will continue through the fall of the year.
Okay. Bond is set at $4,000. It is a signature bond through pretrial services. Either Miss Lippman or Mr. Bill Lippman can co-sign the bond. This will be through pretrial. He will report to pretrial once a month. He is to stay away from 693 Peachtree Street, Northeast Atlanta, in that entire building. He can return to the building one time only with a police officer to retrieve his personal belongings. Otherwise, he will need to update the court with his new address within 30 days of being released. He is to have no further contact with Takesha Johnson. He's to stay 200 yards away from her, not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. And I'm sure, Mr. Patrick, you will advise him on that he's not allowed to contact her through social media or discuss her on social media as well. No illegal drugs. He's not to consume any illegal drugs. He will be subject to random screens for illegal drugs and or alcohol. He's not to consume any alcohol. And he's not allowed to possess or own any firearms or weapons. His next court date will be sent to his new address, which he provides the court within 30 days of being released. That's it. Thank you.
I would make a motion for reconsideration.
On which aspect?
The reporting through pretrial.
He will report through pretrial. Motion denied.
I'm sorry, and what's the father's first name, please?
Who will be co-signing? Mr. William or Lippman or Miss Renee Lippman? I'm sorry, you have to unmute.
Yes, I'm happy to co-sign.
All right, Mr. William is William short for Bill, right? I mean long for Bill.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and last name is Lippman.
Correct.
And if you want to put your address to the Mr. Patrick, whoever would like to do it, you can do it through to pretrial-Howard, and you can put that in the chat.
I will do right now.
That can go on the bond order. I don't need it.
Okay, then in that case, put it to Miss L.M. Casey Strong.
On its way right now.
Thank you. That concludes this case. Thank you very much. Next case, please.
The
Oh.
interpreter case,
Excellent. And that was position, was it
12, I think it is.
12? Okay. And we have case number 23. Well, let me begin first. Miss Regina, what's your last name, please?
Mello.
Mallow. Okay. Miss Mallow, if you don't mind, I'd like to administer the interpreter oath. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the information you translate will be a true and accurate interpretation without any changes or embellishments?
I do.
Thank you. We are addressing the case of Macon Martino Maza, charged with theft by taking, a misdemeanor offense.
Nós vamos agora tratar do caso de Macon Marino Massa. É caso de furto e é uma contravenção penal.
The case number is 23 CR 003742D.
O número do caso é 23 CR 003742D.
Mr. Macon, the alleged offense is from August 27, 2022.
Sr. Macon, as ofensas são referentes a 27 de agosto de 2022.
You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say will be translated and used against you.
O senhor tem direito de permanecer em silêncio, mas tudo o que o senhor falar será traduzido e pode ser usado contra o senhor.
You have a right to an attorney, and presently your attorney is Ms. Kelly Wills.
O senhor tem direito a advogado e atualmente a sua advogada é a senhora Kelly Wills.
All right. There has been a formal accusation filed against you, charging you with theft by taking, allegedly from Kirsten King.
A alegação contra o senhor, uma acusação formal de furto por Kirsten King.
Right, first going to see what your criminal history record is, if there's one.
Primeiro nós vamos verificar se o senhor tem algum histórico criminal.
Mr. Howard?
I got first arrest.
Ms. Mallow, you can announce that this is his first arrest.
Essa é a sua primeira detenção.
Okay. Ms. Herring, what's the state's recommendation for bond?
Qual é a recomendação do Estado com relação à fiança?
Yes, Judge, this case is out of the Alpharetta Police Department, location 78 Academy Street in Alpharetta.
Okay.
Esse caso é do Departamento de Polícia de Alpharetta.
And the allegations are that the defendant and Kaoru Shimada, who's on another position in the calendar, took essential oils that the victim left on the curb while setting up for a local city event.
E a alegação é que o réu e Shimada roubaram óleos essenciais enquanto a pessoa estava montando o stand.
The state's bond recommendation is $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services, no further contact with the victim, Kirsten King, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons.
A recomendação do Estado é uma fiança de 2.000, não ter mais nenhum contato com Kirsten King e não consumir álcool nem drogas ilícitas.
Any objection, Ms. Wills?
Alguma objeção, senhora Wills?
I'm sorry, was that a signature bond? I heard that Shimada is also a co-defendant.
Yeah, we'll address him next, but presently, $2,000 signature bond through pretrial.
No objection. We need to conflict out of Mr. Shimada's case. I did not have an incident report associated with Mr. Marian Omaza, so we'll need to put that in.
Nós temos também o caso desse senhor Shimada, que é associado ao caso do réu aqui. mas eu estou vendo que a fiança é de $2.000.
All right. Miss Herring, the incident report was filed with the warrant and the documents. If you wouldn't mind emailing those to Miss Wills.
Senhora,
Ms. Wills, would you put your email address in the chat?
Yes, well, I believe we have enough information to file the conflict. I just didn't have,
Oh.
Mr. Shimada wasn't indicated in the information that I received, so I don't know that we conflicted out of his case. So we will not go forward.
Sorry, Miss Mala, I apologize. Please translate.
nós temos informações suficientes, eu só não sabia se teria algum conflito com o caso também do senhor Shimada, mas tem informações suficientes.
Mr. Mycon's bond is $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services.
A fiança, então, do senhor Macon vai ser de $2.000 por assinatura e através dos serviços de pretrial.
He's to have no further contact with Kirsten King.
Ele não pode ter nenhum contato adicional com Kirsten King.
He's to report to pretrial once a month.
Tem que se reportar para os serviços de pretrial uma vez por mês.
No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and firearms.
Não pode consumir álcool, drogas ilícitas, não pode carregar armas, armas de fogo.
His current address we have is Village Green Way. Is that correct?
O endereço atual que nós temos dele é Village Green Way, correto?
Yes, Your Honor, I did confirm that.
Sim, meritíssimo, eu confirmei com ele.
We will send his next court date notice to that address.
Nós vamos mandar a próxima data que ele tem que comparecer para esse endereço.
Does he speak some English?
Ele fala um pouco de inglês?
Yes, Your Honor, he does.
Sim, meritíssimo, ele fala.
All right, so he should be able to communicate with pretrial.
Yes.
Então, provavelmente ele vai conseguir se comunicar com serviços de pretrial.
That concludes this case.
Então, isso conclui o caso dele.
All right.
May the interpreter be excused, Your Honor?
Just one moment, please. Position number 17, Kaoru Michael Shimada. Is he in the courtroom?
Paulo Shimada está presente?
Yes, he is, Judge.
All right, Miss Wills, or Miss Herring, just one second. On the Casey, on the bond order for Mr. Mycon, he's also to stay away from Kaoru Shimada after today.
Yes, ma'am.
Na ordem de fiança do senhor Macon, ele também tem que manter distância do senhor Carlos Shimada.
And let me, Mr. Shimada, do you speak English?
Senhor Shimada, o senhor fala inglês?
Yes, he does.
Your Honor, if he spoke with Ms. Kim, we can't represent them both. So
I know. He'll need to be complete, and Miss McLeod is present. All right. We will have to place Mr. Shimada in courtroom 3. So he may go into a breakout with Miss McLeod. Miss McLeod, may I appoint you to represent this gentleman?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And I'll need to verify his address. It appears to be the same address as Mr. Mycon, so one of them will have to move out after today.
The other guy. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Malo, thank you so much. You are free to go. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Mhm.
Your Honor, with respect to Ms. Haynes, may I make an announcement?
Yes, you may.
Your Honor, she gave me a telephone number for her daughter. Her
Okay.
daughter is Miss Perez. I actually called and spoke with her daughter, who confirmed and proper address, and that mom is able to be contacted through a telephone number, which I also have. I was also able to speak with Miss Haynes and to go through the plea form with her, and I believe that she is ready to take the plea.
Okay. All right. I'll have to address it after I take all the other cases. I do
Yes,
believe
Your
we may have a few pleas to take towards the end. So
Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted the court to know that this had
I
happened.
appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're
All right,
welcome.
Mr. Shimada will be speaking to you shortly from courtroom 3 in a breakout room.
Yes, Your
Hey,
Honor.
excuse me, Judge Law, for
Yes.
Mr. Shimada, position 17, he was already interviewed by Ms. Kim.
Ms. Kim cannot represent him because he's a co-defendant. So she's withdrawing from the case and he will have to speak to Ms. McLeod. All right, next case other than Mr. Shimada?
Okay, position number 2, Ms. Beal.
Okay.
But real quick, Judge Law, I just want to make a quick announcement. The other guy, his co-defendant, was represented by Ms. Wills. So that's
Yes, so Ms. Wills is represented by Ms. Wills with the Public Defender's Office can represent one defendant. But when is the other defendant from the same case, the PD's office conflicts out. And Ms. McLeod, who is a conflict defense counsel, will then be appointed.
Okay, I got you. Thank you, Judge.
All right, Brianna Beal. It's case 23 CR 003737E, accused of battery, family violence from June 12, 2023. Ms. Beal, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Ms. Wills. And any priors?
Second arrest. She got an open case for simple battery trespass disrupting public schools.
Mhm.
It's 23 CR 001.
88.
Yep.
Okay. And Ms. Chung, what's the state's recommendation for bond?
Yes, Your Honor. The incident happened on the 12th of June on 1960 Rambling Lane. The officers responded to a 911 call in reference to a family dispute. The defendant argued with her brother, who is the victim in this case, Joshua Beal, over food. And using her fork, the defendant scratched at Mr. Beal's stomach and left 3 visible scratches on him that the responding officer saw. The defendant currently is out on a $4,000 pretrial bond per Judge Williams on case number 23 CR 001888E. And that bond was issued on March 29, 2023. This is less than 3 months before this incident for simple battery, criminal trespass, and disrupting public schools. The defendant is back again for a violent offense, but this time against a family member. The state recommends a $3,000 surety bond, no further violent contact with Mr. Beal. However, the state would prefer that if we could ask for a stay away, but understands that because she is 17 years old, she may have to find a place to stay. We also recommend 1 day anger awareness and no alcohol, drugs, and weapons.
All right. Ms. Wills, you do understand that her $4,000 signature bond is going to be surrendered.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And what's your position on bond?
Your Honor, I would ask for a signature bond. Again, I understand that might be a stretch. However, if you look at the booking report for my client, she is clearly a victim. She has a bandage wrapped around her head.
I saw.
She reports that she was attacked. She received she has a broken bone around her eye socket. She also had staples put in the back of her head as a result of this incident. She does deny the allegations as alleged. She also states that she does have alternative housing and does plan to move out of her current home, even though she's just 17. She's still a student in high school. And so she will be reaching out to someone who is over 21, her boyfriend's mother, to possibly be a co-signer if Your Honor would be willing to give her a signature bond. She is a mother. She does have a 9-month-old child.
Yep. On the battery family violence, the bond is going to be set at $1,500. It is a surety bond. She doesn't qualify for a signature bond at the present time, given the fact that she has another open violent case involved. The other case, the $4,000 bond is going to be surrendered and amended to a $4,000 surety bond. So her total bond present time is $5,500 for both cases. In this particular matter, she is to have no further contact with Joshua Beal, to stay away from 1960 Rambling Lane in Atlanta, Georgia. She may return to that location one time only with a police officer to retrieve her personal belongings. She will need to update the court with her new address within 30 days of being released. The next court date is going to be June 27. And Ms. Strong, we are going to address both cases on June 27th SAP calendar, which is this one, as well as 23 CR 001888E. Thank you.
And Your Honor, I wanted to sound for the victim. I have forgotten to ask after I had finished. So if the victim is here, if we could sound for him.
Joshua Beal? Don't hear him. Thank you. Okay.
Position 9, Jenkins.
This is State versus Chandra Nika Arkivia Jenkins, accused of battery from June 12, 2023, case number 23 CR 003750Y. Is that a Y? Yeah. And Ms. Jenkins, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Ms. Wills. And any priors, Mr. Howard?
9th arrest, 2020, out of Florida, drug equipment possession. 2016, she had a vice arrest that was a conviction. 2019 and 2020, drug paraphernalia.
Right. Ms. Herring or Mr. Robinson?
Yes. The defendant here, the officer arrived to the location of an offense in reference to a disturbance. So the officer had met with the complainant or the victim, who is Ms. Frida Coakley, who was a 64-year-old elderly woman. Ms. Coakley stated that the altercation had stemmed from an argument over usage of a cell phone. Once the officer noticed the swelling on the forehead, on the left side above the eye, he asked what happened, to which Ms. Coakley had stated that Ms. Jenkins had punched her in the head. Then the defendant, Ms. Jenkins, had approached the officer and once asked if she had done what Ms. Coakley had previously described. She confirmed by saying, "Yes, I did." The officer then placed her under arrest. She has a previous arrest for battery, one in 2009 in Florida, another one in 2016 in Florida. We're asking for a $5,000 surety bond, no no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, no further contact with Ms. Coakley, 1 day anger awareness.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wills?
Thank you, Your Honor. My client has resided in the state of Georgia for almost 4 years now. She does live in the same apartment complex as the alleged victim, but she states that the alleged victim lives on the opposite side so that they do not have to have any direct contact. My client is currently unemployed and does qualify to receive our services. She does have an interview scheduled at the Sky Lounge. She is a high school graduate. She does have 3 children, and the alleged victim, as I already stated, is her neighbor. She does deny the allegations as alleged. I would request a signature on bond, and if Your Honor is not so inclined, I would ask for a bond not greater than $1,000, as my client's income is very limited.
Bond is set at $1,000. It is a surety bond. No further contact with Frida Coakley. She may return to the location where she lives, but if Miss Coakley is outside, she needs to be inside. So, and no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And she needs to use her own cell phone. She can't borrow anybody else's. Next court date is going to be June 27.
Excuse me, Your Honor. May I stand for the victim, please?
Sure.
If she's here.
Frida Coakley. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mhm.
Wait a minute. You gotta let them acknowledge. Oh.
My client has her hand up, ma'am. Unless you have a question about your bond.
Yes.
Okay.
How much is it that I have to pay again?
Your bond is set at $1,000 surety bond, so depending on the bonding company, they charge between 10 to 15%, so it'll be between $100 to $150.
Okay.
But you do understand that you're to stay away from Miss Coakley. And if you interact or communicate with her in any way, form, or manner, all she has to do is call the cops.
Okay.
Thank you.
Position 10, Johnson.
Miss Carol Johnson is charged with false report of a crime on May 18th, 2023 is the incident date. Case number is 23 CR 003-753F. Ms. Johnson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney, it will be Ms. Kelly Wills. Any priors, Mr.
11 total. Last arrest was 2012 battery. 08 obstruction, no low. 08 disorderly conduct, no low.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
Yes, the victim, Mario Haywood, contacted Georgia Tech Police Department to file a report of harassment and false report of child abuse neglect against the coworker who was the defendant. Mr. Haywood and the defendant, Mrs. Johnson, reportedly once dated in 2020, according to their supervisor, who was George Armbruster. The supervisor stated that both stated the defendant had multiple altercations with other coworkers. He has stated himself that he's been threatened by the defendant, that by her saying that she was going to punch him in the face and throw him out of the window.
I would object.
Sustain.
He also stated that she has been assigned to work in a different area by herself to avoid further conflict.
And I would object. This is a false report of a crime. So I would.
Yeah, let's keep it to the elements of the charge, Mr. Robinson. Actually, I've read the warrant. I understand this is really between Mr. Haywood and Ms. Johnson. So what's the state's recommendation for bond?
Excuse me, I have more facts that, and I have to preserve the record, and I have more pertinent facts. My apologies. Apparently, the defendant has suspected that the victim had put debris and leaves on her vehicle, which the supervisor had.
And ask for only the facts relevant to a false report of a crime.
All right. So, yeah, Mr. Robinson, let's keep it to within the terms of the warrant. I do understand there is a history of ongoing issues between the alleged victim and the alleged defendant. So, basically, from what I gather from the warrant, Ms. Johnson is being accused of making a allegedly false report to the appropriate defects agency. So why was the warrant issued for it being false?
Yes, so she reportedly had called Child Protective Services and stated that Mr. Haywood had been abusing his child, to which Child Protective Services had went over and conducted an investigation at her house and found no evidence of the alleged child abuse. The officer on the scene, or the detective, had followed up with the Child Protective case manager, Celisa Jackson and Stephanie Cumberbatch, to find the name of the person who made the complaints, and both stated that it was the defendant.
All right. And what's the bond recommendation?
Yes, ma'am. We're asking for a $5,000 surety bond, no further contact with Mario Haywood, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and a one-day anger awareness.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wills?
Yes, Your Honor. I formerly represented DFACS, and if everyone had to go to jail for any kind of unfounded report of child abuse, there would be our jails would be even more overcrowded than they currently are. So I'm not really sure how this charge came about or why my client is being charged with this. My client has resided in Georgia for the past 25 years. She is employed by Georgia Tech as a custodian. She does not qualify to be represented by the Public Defender's Office. She is a high school graduate. She also has an associate's degree. I would request a signature on bond in this case. And if Your Honor is not so inclined, I would ask for a bond no greater than $1,000.
Okay. Bond is set at $2,500. It is going to be a surety bond. Her next court date is going to be on June 27th. The terms are no further contact with Mario Haywood, Haywood. And I believe Mr. Haywood's also an employee at the Institute of Georgia Technology. I'm going to require Ms. Johnson to stay away from all Georgia Tech property. Next court date is 27. Thank you.
And excuse me, Your Honor, may I stand for the victim, please?
Mr. Mario Haywood. All right, thank you. Yes, Ms. Johnson?
I work there and I have to go to work and they're gonna terminate me. So I don't work in the same building as him. He's working on 10th Avenue.
Ms. Johnson, you need to stay away from that location.
But I work there, ma'am. So how am I supposed to go to work? And how am I supposed to pay for my attorney if I can't go to my job? It's not the same area. We do not work in the same building. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
That's my ruling.
No, ma'am, I work at the Expedition Hall. He works at West Village. Those are two different addresses.
Ms. Johnson, the judge has given her ruling. I don't advise that you say anything further, okay? You can ask your attorney possibly to modify your bond at a later date.
Next case, please.
Position 17, Shamada. Make right.
All right, we are addressing the co-defendant case. This is 23 CR 003-744J. Kaoru Michael Shimada is accused of theft by taking from August 27, 2022, involving the same alleged victim, Kirsten King. Mr. Shimada, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. McLeod. Any priors with position 17, Mr. Howard?
2014 arson, vandalism. It was ended up being a defacing property conviction. That's all I wrote down.
All right, thank you. Miss Herring?
Yes, Judge. As mentioned earlier with the co-defendant, this case involved the two defendants as Ms. King was setting up for a booth at the City of Alpharetta event. She was unloading boxes of oils. As she was unloading them, Mr. Shimada and the co-defendant took her boxes of oils and started loading them in their vehicle. She turned around and confronted them. They put some of the oils back, and then after the verbal confrontation, took some of the oils again and drove away. She took their license plate number. The car was subsequently stopped, and Mr. Shimada was in the car with another man. It's not clear that he was charged, but that's the factual basis. The state's bond recommendation is a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services, no alcohol, drugs, or firearms, no further contact with Ms. King. And I believe Your Honor stipulated earlier with the co-defendant, no further contact while on bond with the co-defendant.
That would be correct. Miss McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 27 years old. He holds a bachelor's degree in computer sciences and works as a web designer. He tells me that on the occasion of this incident, he and his husband were coming from a function when they were in the area of the park, And so what they thought were some abandoned items. There's no one there or anything, and they actually thought the stuff was abandoned. The alleged victim came and told them that the stuff was hers, and he tells me that they had started to put some of the stuff in their car. They took back everything and put it back where she was. And she said she was going to call the police, which he thought was surprising given the fact that they had not taken anything. This incident happened almost a year ago, Your Honor. My client has not been in any kind of trouble. The issue here is that the co-defendant and himself are spouses and they live together. This is not a case of domestic violence or anything, Your Honor. It would be an extreme hardship for my client if he was not able to reside with his spouse. So I would ask the court to reconsider that particular provision.
Okay. And what evidence do we have that they are married? I don't see anything, so I really don't have anything to indicate otherwise.
He told me they were married, Your Honor.
Okay. And where were they married?
Where were they married? I
Yes.
didn't ask him that. I just took his word that they were married.
Okay.
But I could ask him in open court where they were married.
Certainly. I'm sure they have a license or a certificate to validate that.
I would imagine so, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. Shimada, where were you and Mr. Macon married?
In Las Vegas, in 2021, Your Honor.
And do you have a marriage certificate to that effect?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. You will produce that to your attorney. Your bond is presently set at $2,000 signature bonds with pretrial services. You will report to a pretrial. You are to stay away from Miss Kirsten King. You're not to communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. Presently, I'm going to require you to, well, I've already told Mr. Macon that he cannot return to, no, he can return to Village Green Parkway. One of you can return to Village Green Parkway. You both can decide. But presently, I need to see that certificate before I can verify that you are both presently married. I have a California license for Mr. Shimada. So, and I have, so I don't know who is a resident of Georgia. So given these issues that I see with residency, I'm going to require Mr. Shimada to stay away from Mr. Macon until we can verify that they're married, and then I'll be glad to send in an amended bond order.
I understand, Your Honor. Mr. Shimada, you can ask the officer for my telephone number so you can contact me once you get out.
I do have my license of Georgia residency at that address with me now.
All right, so if you have a Georgia driver's license, and so you'll need to update your contact information and so forth. And I'll be glad to amend it to remove the stay away from co-defendant.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Position 6, Cresswell, and he refused to take the plea. Have a seat.
This is State versus Mr. Cresswell, and his first name would be Brian Cresswell, accused of criminal trespass, case number 23 CR 003-740Y. Mr. Cresswell is charged with criminal trespass from June 12, 2023, allegedly at the Trinity United Methodist Church. Mr. Cresswell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Wills. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
11 total. Last arrest was in February, violation of family violence order and trespass in DeKalb County. He was arrested twice this year for trespass. 2009, trespass, simple assault dismissed.
Ms. Herron?
Yeah, Your Honor, just one moment. I didn't have him on my list.
Oh, is it Ms. Chung's case?
Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I apologize, Ms. Herring. Yes, Ms.
Sure.
Chung, go ahead.
Thank you. This incident happened June 12th at location 265 Washington Street, Southwest. On July 11th, an officer was dispatched to Trinity United Methodist Church in reference to a dispute. On the scene, the victim could not be found, but the church's security supervisor advised that the defendant was not supposed to be on the property and that a criminal trespass warning was given to him. This criminal trespass warning was from June 4th, 2023. Despite this warning, the defendant entered the premises of Trinity United Methodist Church twice, once earlier that day and then later at night. He's had a failure to appear back in 2004 and 2020. For these reasons, the state recommends a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services to stay away from the location at 265 Washington Street Southwest, and no drugs, alcohol, and weapons. That's all for the state.
All right, Ms. Wills, any objection?
No, Your Honor. And I've already spoken with my client regarding not returning.
I beg your pardon? No objection to the.
No objection. I've already spoken with my client about not returning to the premises.
Okay. Mr. Cresswell, based on the state's position, we are going to issue a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial. And I just want to verify your address.
That'll be per judge.
Yes.
His mailing address is what's on his booking sheet. The 201 Washington Street is his mailing address.
Is that his current mailing address?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. A $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services. He must report in person to pretrial once a month. He's to stay 200 yards away. That's the length of 2 football fields from the Trinity United Methodist Church, which is at 265 Washington Street in Atlanta, Georgia. If he's seen on the sidewalk, if he's seen across the street, if he's seen in that particular church to which he's not welcome, he will be arrested again, and that $2,000 signature bond will be converted to either a surety bond or a cash bond. I don't know if he has any holds in DeKalb County, but that's the current status of his bond situation. Thank you.
You're done. Position 4, Cage.
Mr. DeAndre Darnell Cage is 23 CR 0037838G, accused of theft by taking, possession and use of a drug-related object, and driving while license suspended or revoked. Mr. Cage, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim. Any priors with Ms. Cage?
He was arrested on the 4th of this month for obstruction. On probation, robbery by force, false imprisonment, possession of a firearm during a commission. 2013, they gave him 20 years for that. And possession of cocaine, possession of marijuana. 2020, they gave him 4 years for that.
All right.
You want me to keep going?
No, we're good. Thank you. Ms. Herring? Is that your case? No? Ms. Chung? Is that your case? Mr. Robinson? I'm running out of prosecutors.
I'll take over. What's the name again?
This is position 3, Mr. Cage, DeAndre Cage, C-A-G-E, common spelling.
May have to just look him up. Let's see.
All right. Francois, can we take the next case while we find out who's going to be arguing for the state?
Position 5, Cooper.
Okay. And Cooper, who would be the prosecutor? Position 5. Ms. Chung, Ms. Robinson, Ms. Herring?
Position 5, Demetrius Cooper.
Yes.
I don't have him on my list either, but I can look him up if neither of the others have him.
Yes, Your Honor. I only have Antonio Bennett. I don't think he's been called yet.
Francois, do we have position 3, Antonio Bennett?
Yeah, he's coming up now, Judge.
All right. This is State versus Antonio Bennett, 23 CR 003-756F. Mr. Bennett is accused of theft by receiving stolen property from June 12, 2023. And Mr. Bennett, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Wills. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Fourth arrest, 2020. Family offense, DV. All this arrests is DV related. That's it. It's out of Alabama.
Ms. Chum, what's the bond recommendation for a wayward license plate?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident occurred June 12th of this year. The location was 4265 Shirley Drive. On the 12th of June, the officers received a flock camera notification of a stolen license plate at the location. Said before officer entered the location and saw the white tag on the defendant's 2012 Chevrolet Impala. The tag actually belonged to AutoZone and should have been on a white 2022 Chevrolet Colorado. While the officer was waiting to confirm the tag, the officer made contact with the defendant and asked where he found the license plate. The defendant stated that he found the tag on the ground and put on his car because he did not want to have his personal car to get registered in Georgia. For these reasons, the state recommends a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services, no drugs, alcohol, and weapons. That's all for the state.
Any objection, Ms. Wills?
No, Your Honor.
Bond is set at $2,000. It's a signature bond through pretrial services.
Per judge.
And Mr. Bennett is to report to pretrial once a month in Fulton County, Georgia. And his next court date will be sent to him at his address, which he will have to confirm within 30 days of being released. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. And whatever vehicle he operates must have the correct and valid registration, as well as adequate insurance. Thank you.
Position 19, Washington.
We have State versus Kail, Kail, Washington, 23 CR 003-751B. Mr. Washington is charged with 1 count of battery, family violence, and 2 counts of hindering a person from making an emergency phone call. This is from a June 12, 2023 incident, case 23 CR 3751B. Mr. Washington, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Kim. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
No.
No priors? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No.
Okay. Mr. Herring?
1 second. That appears to be arising from an incident on June 12th of 2023 at 3350 Flat Shoals Road. Officers were dispatched to that location in reference to a fight call. The complainant left the original location and was at a different location, 3601 Flat Shoals. Officers arrived, was able to speak with Aneria Jackson, who stated the incident began at the previous location, 3350 Flat Shoals, when she and her husband, Kail Washington, were engaged in a verbal dispute. That verbal dispute turned physical. Mr. Jackson kicked open a door, struck Miss Jackson with a closed fist, also put her in a headlock. She indicated that she began to feel like she was about to faint, but that she could breathe. She then screamed for her daughter, Anaya Tucker, to call the police. The police and the daughter tried to enter the room in the bathroom, but she and the defendant were leaning against the door during the struggle. She was finally able to break free and get to her phone, try to get to her phone, but he took her phone. At that point, she fled to the different location, made the call. The state's bond recommendation. I didn't have him on my list, so give me 1 second to look at his record.
The state just announced he doesn't have any priors.
And that's what I'm seeing also. I'm looking at his GCIC and it doesn't look like he has any priors. It's a bond recommendation, $2,000 signature bond. I need to sound for the victim and see if they're still together before recommending no contact or versus no violent contact.
Well, I see a Nereus iPhone, so I don't know if that person is connected to this case. Nerea iPhone?
I am.
Aneria, are you Miss Jackson?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And do you wish to address the court in terms of whether or not you wish to have contact with Mr. Washington?
No, I actually filed our TPO on yesterday, and so it was told that it would be requested in the his court hearing.
Okay, so you wish no further contact with Mr. Washington?
No further contact until his next court hearing.
Okay. So then, Judge, that would be the state's request as a bond condition, no contact with Ms. Jackson. No alcohol, drugs, weapons while on bond, and any other conditions the court deems appropriate.
All right, Ms. Kim, any objection to the signature bond?
No, Your Honor, we don't have any objection.
All right. On the charge of battery family violence, that's going to be a $2,000 signature bond. On the 2 counts of hindering a person from making an emergency phone call, that's going to be a $500 signature bond each. The total bond is $3,000. It's a signature bond through pretrial services. Mr. Washington, you will report to pretrial once a month. You are to have no further contact with Aneria Jackson. Now, I know she's just indicated that she's filed a protective order petition, but irrespective of what happens in that case, I'm telling you that if you want to maintain your signature bond status, you are to have no contact with her. You're to stay 200 yards away from her. You're not to communicate with her in any way, form, or manner, even on social media or through a third party. This happened at, so do you live at 3350 Flat Shoals Road?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you can return to that location one time only with a police officer to retrieve your personal belongings. After that, you would have to update the court with your new address within 30 days of being released. Yes, sir?
Would this also include my vehicle?
Yeah, that will include your,
My name,
that will include your vehicle. However, if that vehicle is marital property and there is a dispute as to who drives it, you cannot drive off with it. That is something you'll have to take care of in a divorce case or in a property dispute case.
Yes,
Understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
But you must go there with a police officer.
You
And
do
if
have
there's
separate
a,
cars, Your Honor.
I beg your pardon?
You do have separate cars.
That would be good then.
Drive separate.
All I'm saying is if you stake a claim on any property when you go there with a police officer and there's a breach of peace, there's an argument, you cannot take that item and the officer has full authority to cancel your visit and terminate it immediately. All right. So please keep in mind that you have to update the court within 30 days of being released of your new address. You are to not consume any alcohol, no illegal drugs, and you're not to possess any weapons or firearms. Your next court date will be sent to your new address, which you provide to the court. And if you fail to appear, a bench warrant will be issued for your arrest. Please remember to comply with the conditions of this bond. Otherwise, the court is authorized to revoke it and convert it to a surety bond or a cash bond. Understood, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Jackson, you might want to talk to the attorneys from the Safe Family Division in Superior Court to let them know that Mr. Washington will be released from jail within 24 hours and how they want to proceed accordingly. Thank you.
And Judge Law, it was just to no further contact with Ms. Jackson, not the other person in the other warrant, correct?
I only have Miss Aneria Jackson. Or was there somebody else?
It was another victim in the hindering, the telephone call. Did you just want to put Ms. Jackson in the order? It was Anaya Tucker as well.
That's my daughter.
17 years old, Your Honor. Third party transfer, we would like to request if she wants to meet.
Miss Jackson, is that a child you share with Mr. Washington?
No, it isn't.
All right. So yeah, we'll put a no further contact with Anaya Tucker as well. ANIYAH Tucker. Thank you.
Thank you.
Position 16, Presley.
And Miss Herring, have we resolved the issue of who's handling the earlier cases?
Yes, I have Mr. Cage now. I also have Mr. Presley if you want to go on with him.
Yeah, let's start with Mr. Presley. This is position 16. And Mr. Presley is charged with battery, domestic violence from July 16, 2022 in accusation number 23 CR 0037445C. This alleged incident from July 16, 20, I'm sorry, I already said that. Okay, Mr. Presley, you've been advised of your right to remain silent and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
8th arrest, last was back in March, kidnapping, criminal impersonation. Felony in possession of a weapon. That was out of Tennessee. On probation in Fayette County, 3 counts of armed robbery, 3 counts of false imprisonment. 2021 probation, 2021 fugitive from justice. 2021, another probation, and 2017 forgery conviction.
That's good. Thank you. Ms. Herring, what's your bond recommendation?
The bond recommendation was $5,000 surety bond. No further contact with victim Jakia Burton. No alcohols, drugs, or weapons. The anger awareness class. And I believe that is all.
Okay. And Ms. Kim?
Yes, Mr. Richard Presley is 25 years old. He was born in Alabama. However, he has been here in Georgia for almost 8 years. He has a 5-year-old child, and he's providing the support. He works as an assistant manager at Wingstop. His highest level of education is 10th grade, and he would like to continuously live with his mother right now. And there has been no contact whatsoever ever since this happened on July 16, 2022, almost a year ago. We have no objection to stay away, no further contact with Miss Jakia Burton. They broke up, they don't live together, and we would like to request for a signature on bond. However, if Your Honor is not inclined to give him a signature on bond, we would like to request for a maximum $1,000 good bond. Thank you.
Bond is set at $2,500. It's a surety bond. No further contact with Jakia. I want to make sure the spelling is right. Jakeya. Last name
Yes.
Hinton, common spelling. To stay away from 2591 Etheridge Court in Northwest Atlanta. No alcohol, no drugs, no weapons. And while he's out on bond, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next court date is June 27th. That was what I forgot to add. June 27th. Thank you.
And Your Honor, you indicated that was a surety bond?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And it was 2,500, correct?
Correct. Okay, next case, please. Courtroom 2.
What was the bond real quick?
2,500 surety bond. No further contact with Jakia Burton. Stay away from the location. No illegal drugs, alcohol, and weapons. Next court date is June 27. All right, who do we have?
Position 4, Cage.
Okay, all right, I have already called sound out for Mr. Cage's case, 23 CR 003738G, in which he was accused of theft by taking, possession, use of drug-related objects, and driving while license suspended, revoked. And we understand that he's on probation as well. Ms. Herring?
Yes, Your Honor. As the court indicated, this incident happened June 12, 2023 at 1525 Mansell Road in Alpharetta at Mavis Brakes and Tires. Officer observed defendant pull into the parking lot of the business after business hours. Saw Mr. Cage going in and out of the car with a tire, placing the tire in the vehicle multiple times. When he approached, the defendant had tires in the car. And so that's the basis for the charge of the theft of the tires. The state's bond recommendation, he has 20 cycles on his GCIC, mostly thefts, convictions and arrests for thefts. He had an armed robbery, kidnapping conviction we show out of Fulton in 2013, 2014 and 2020 FTAs. He's also on probation, as mentioned earlier. State's recommendation is $5,000 surety bond, $4,000 for the theft by taking, $500 on the drug objects, and $500 on suspended license. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons. No driving without a valid license. Stay away from the Mavis Brakes and Tires. And that's all.
Ms. Kim?
Yes, Mr. Cage is 34 years old, and Your Honor, he is employed. He's working part-time at Tent Rental Service and another part-time at Franklin Clean and Press Wash. His highest level of education was up to 11th grade. He is enrolled in a GED program. He completed 50% and he's working on for the rest of them. Your Honor, he's not qualified for public defender's services, and he is currently residing at, we have a solid address for him. He has no objection to stay away from Mavis Tires, and we would like to request for maximum $1,000 good bond for theft by taking and drug and driving. We would like to request for a signature on bond. Thank you.
On the theft by taking is $3,000 as a surety bond. On the possession and use of drug-related objects is $500, and driving while license suspended revoked is $1,000. Total bond is $4,500. It's a surety bond. Reset dates June 27. To stay away from the Mavis Auto Store at 1525 Mansell Road in Alpharetta, Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you.
By taking was 25, you said?
The theft by taking is $3,000 surety. Possession and use of drug-related objects is $500. Driving while license suspended revoked $1,000.
And the possession of marijuana, that was NOD, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
You know. Next, we have position 15, Mr. Pinckney, Jason Pinckney. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. All right, Mr. Jason Jerice Pinckney is accused of simple battery, domestic violence, and interference with custody from March 20th, 2023. Accusation number is 23 CR 003-747H. Mr. Pinckney, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Wills. Any prize, Mr. Howard?
This is who?
Position 15, Jason Pinckney.
13 total, 2020 probation, 2017 forgery, suspended license. His last violent arrest was like 2002, something like that. That's it.
Ms. Herring, what's the state's recommendation for bond?
Yes, Your Honor. This case occurred at 4210 Fortune Point in Atlanta. Chera Russell got into an argument with her son, who was a minor, over suspicion he was smoking marijuana, at which point the son reached out to his father, Mr. Pinckney, and who was not his legal guardian. Mr. Pinckney came over, got into a fight with Miss Russell, and ended up grabbing her by the arms and neck, threw her onto the floor. The state's recommendation is $3,500 surety bond with $2,500 on the simple battery, family violence, and $1,000 on the interference with custody. Stay away from 4210 Fortune Point. No further contact with Sherrod Russell or with minor JP unless the defendant has a custody visitation agreement in place. 1 day anger management, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons.
All right. Ms. Wills?
Your Honor, I would object to the no further contact with his child. He is a biological father of this child. He tells me that his child called him, told him that his mother, which is the mother of the child, and I guess my client's former partner, was very angry, upset. My client went to the location. He did observe that the mother was very upset, and he thought it was in the best interest of the child for both of them to leave the location for things to cool off. I have spoken with my client about legitimating all of his children so that he can have legal rights. But again, this is his biological child. I would ask for a signature bond. And if Your Honor is not so inclined, I would ask for the bond to not be greater than $2,000.
Okay. On the simple battery, the bond is set at $2,000 surety. On the interference with custody, it's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. No further contact with Sherrod Russell. And he would need to have either a Superior Court legitimation order or the consent of the custodial parent, which is Sherrod Russell, to have visitation with the minor child JP. So it's either going to have to be, I don't think the consent might be forthcoming, but if there's consent, then I'll allow for a third-party transfer. No illegal drugs, no weapons, no firearms. The bond is set at $4,000 split bond. Next court date is June 27.
Judge Law, can you give the conditions on his
bond again? Okay. No further contact with the victim, Sherrod Russell. No contact with the minor JP unless he has a consent by the custodial parent, Sherrod Russell. In that case, I will allow for third-party transfer. Otherwise, he will need to get a Superior Court legitimation order to establish visitation and joint custody. No illegal drugs, no weapons, no firearms. And his next court date is June 27. And if he doesn't live at the incident location, he's to stay away from wherever Ms. Russell and JP live at as well. Mr. Pinckney, do you have any questions?
No.
All right. Next court date is June 27. If he makes bond, then remember, he doesn't have to show up in court on June 27. He will get notice for a new court date. Make sure you have a good address on you. Thank you.
How much was that?
2 and 2, 2,000 surety on the simple battery, 2,000 signature bond through the jail on the interference.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have position number 13, Mr. McIntosh. Good evening, Your Honor.
Good evening. State versus Remnant McIntosh, 23 CR 0037438. Mr. Remnant's accused of fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer by driving away from December 29, 2022. So McIntosh, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Fifth arrest. Last arrest is in March, North Carolina. Possession of a firearm by convicted felon, identity theft, attempt to obtain property on a false pretense. By the open case and car, possession of a Schedule II, tampering, possession of a knife or a firearm during the commission. 2022, got a simple battery out of car. Open violation of family violence order out of car. 2019, simple battery. 2022 counts of simple battery.
Thank you. Ms. Herring? I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Yes, Your Honor. I don't know if Mr. Howard mentioned, we're showing an arrest in North Carolina for possession of firearm by a convicted felon.
He did.
Okay. This case occurred at Holcomb Bridge Road and Dogwood Road in Roswell, Georgia. Defendant was driving white BMW. Officer Detective Brake observed the BMW in the parking area of the gas station at 1105 Holcomb Bridge Road. Saw an older white male exit the passenger side, linger around the vehicle. Black male exited and went into the gas station. Black male returned to the vehicle and got into the vehicle alone. Detective ran the vehicle, noticed it didn't have insurance, initiated a traffic stop. The vehicle accelerated quickly and went south on Georgia 400. The detective did not give chase and instead went back to the Exxon to review security footage. And using, I guess, the software, they were able to identify Mr. McIntosh, compare the booking photo to the security photo, and determine that it was Mr. McIntosh driving the BMW when it fled. As for a state's bond recommendation, as the court's aware, he is a multi-state offender, and his family ties apparently appear to be to New York more than Georgia. So the state's recommendation is a $5,000 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, no driving unless to work, home, court, medical, and that's all.
All right. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. McIntosh is 23 years old, and he has been here in Georgia for 1 year. His girlfriend here is here in Georgia, and he's expecting to have a son next month. So he is building up his family here in Georgia. So I don't think that he is a flight risk, and he does have a community ties, and he's building up. He graduated from high school successfully, and also he does a plumbing certificate, and he has been working in the construction industry, but because of COVID, the work has been kind of slow in the construction industry, so he's now doing Airbnb. He's not going to be qualified for public defender's services, and yet we would like to request for a signature on bond for this driving, flee, and elude. He didn't realize this happened on December 29, 2022, which is almost 6 months ago, and he does not recall exactly what happened. Thank you, Your Honor.
It's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial per judge. Report to pretrial once a month. Do not operate a motor vehicle unless you have valid registration, current adequate insurance, and a proper license. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Your Honor, we have position number 18, Mr. Van Dyne.
This is Mr. Brett Van Dyne, accused of battery from June 12, 2023 in case 23 CR 003-749C. Mr. Van Dyne, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
First arrest is what I got.
Did you say fourth arrest?
First.
First, okay, thank you. Ms. Herring?
Yes, Your Honor, that's also what we're showing, that this is the first arrest. This incident happened on June 12, 2023 at 2506 Tree Lodge Parkway in Sandy Springs. The officer spoke with the victim in the case, Peter Dalsemer, who told the officer that the defendant, who's his living boyfriend, they didn't want to be with him anymore. That led into an argument which escalated into a physical altercation, at which point Mr. Van Dyne struck Mr. Dalsemer in the face, resulting in a contusion near his eye and some scratches. Mr. Dalsemer also presented officers with a recording that showed him trying to leave, with Mr. Van Dyne throwing him to the floor and then what looked like a strike toward him. The state's recommendation is $3,000 surety bond, no further contact with Peter Dalsemer, stay away from 2506 Tree Lodge Parkway, 1 day of anger awareness, no alcohols, drugs, or weapons.
Okay, so the alleged victim was trying to leave the premises?
That is what he indicated to police, yes.
All right, this happened just yesterday. Do we have any information that he plans to return to that location?
Well, my belongings are there, and the officers that arrested me didn't read me my Miranda rights.
I don't understand what you're saying.
The officers that arrested me didn't read me my Miranda rights.
All right, that doesn't answer my question.
I still have my belongings there as well.
Okay, are you planning to go back to that location
Just to get my property.
just to get your property? Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Bright Van Dyne is 29 years old, and as he said, he is totally okay with the stay away from that location, even though his name is on the lease, and he does not know whether Peter Delsmer left or not completely. He is okay with no further contact with him as well. He was born in Ohio. However, he's been here in Georgia quite a bit. He does odd jobs here and there. He cleans up, DoorDash. He's been doing that. However, his income is not really high enough. So he's qualified for public defender services, and our team will be continuously representing him. Your Honor, we would like to request for signature on bond. This is his first offense ever, and he is completely okay with the stay away and no further contact with him.
And Ms. Herring, I don't think you got a chance to set your bond. Do you have any objection to a signature bond with the stay away and no contact?
We recommended a surety bond, but no, Your Honor, we don't have any objection.
All right. Bond is set at 2,500. It's a signature bond through pretrial services. Mr. Van Dyne, you will be released on a signature bond. You will report to pretrial once a month, and you will attend and complete a one-day anger awareness program that is conducted through pretrial.
Okay.
You can return to the Tree Lodge Parkway one time only with a police officer to retrieve your personal belongings. That visit cannot exceed 1 hour. You are not to consume any alcohol, no illegal drugs, and not possess any weapons or firearms. No contact with Peter Dulcimer, and to stay 200 yards away from him and not communicate with him in any way, form, or manner, including social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
How much was
So,
that?
2,500 signature bond. Mr. Van Dyne, within 30 days of being released, you have to update the court clerks of your current address, so we can send you notices of your next court date.
Okay, so when I sign the bond, do I have to pay the 2,500 then, or would I have? Okay. All right, thank you, Your Honor.
Is that pretrial or jail, Your Honor?
Pretrial, signature bonds for pretrial.
Thank you. We got position number 7, Mr. Harmon.
Okay.
And this is a plea, Your Honor.
Oh. All right. I think I'm taking a plea in Mr. Harmon and Ms. Hayes. What about Demetrius Cooper?
He's still here, Your Honor.
Let's finish him first. Is he a plea as well?
No.
No, okay. So I want to finish all the non-plea cases and then we'll do.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Herring, are you prosecuting this case?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, so I've already sound out for Mr. Demetrius Cooper case 23 CR 003-739E. He's represented by Ms. Wills. And this charge is for simple battery from January 26, 2023. Any priors with Mr. Cooper, Mr. Howard?
Last arrest was 2022 probation. On probation, financial transaction card theft out of Lowndes County. 2019 obstruction conviction. 2021 failure to appeal.
Right. So we have a probation violation and a FTA on his record. Ms. Herring, what's the bond recommendation?
Your
And
Honor,
that is, by the way, based on a private warrant application filed by Victor Christian, who is on the Zoom.
yes, Your Honor, I was going to point out that he is on the Zoom call. He indicated that the defendant, apart from spitting on him twice, also threatened to fuck him up, his words. Lucky he only spit on him. Victim made a video recording of those threats, indicated he is afraid of the defendant, especially since he's now been arrested and wants no contact and a stairway. So the state is asking for, I believe he has a preset surety bond in place of $1,000. So we're asking that remain in place, that the court order 1-day anger awareness class, no further contact with Mr. Christian, and stay away from 800 West Marietta Street, Northwest in Atlanta.
Okay, I don't know what that is, but
I believe that's the location of the incident
yeah.
and where Mr. Christian lives. Mr. Christian, can you confirm?
Yes, ma'am. I do say at that address you just
Yeah, I
stated.
need your video on, Mr. Christian, if you
Oh,
want.
yes, ma'am. I apologize. I'm finna turn it on right now. I apologize. Okay, can you see me now?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so you live at this location, 800 West?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. And what was your bond recommendation, Ms. Herring?
The defendant we're showing already has a $1,000 preset surety bond, so we're asking that remain in place. And then 1-day anger awareness, no further contact with Mr. Christian, and stay away from the location.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wills?
Thank you, Your Honor. My client is currently unemployed. He informs me that he is unable to make his $1,000 bond. This incident did occur back in January. He has not had any further contact or communication with Mr. Christian, that is a former partner of his. He has no objection to no contact and to staying away. And this was, again, as the state stated, a warrant that was taken out by Mr. Christian personally, as opposed to law enforcement. So I would request a signature on bond.
Right. Bond's going to be set at 2,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. Mr. Cooper, you are to have no further contact with Victor Christian. You're to stay 200 yards away from him and not communicate with him in any way, form, or manner, even through a third person or through social media. You're not to be seen within 200 yards of 800 West Marietta Street. 200 yards is the length of 2 football fields, so you cannot return to that area. You're to report to pretrial once a month. I have your current address as Stockbridge. Is that your current address? All right. You will send notice for your next court date to that address. You're not to consume any alcohol, not to consume any illegal drugs, and not possess any weapons or firearms. While you are out on bond, on a signature bond, you will report to pretrial and you will complete 8 class. Well, this is not DB, so I'm going to leave it at that. But I will require you to do an anger awareness class with pretrial. Do you have any questions about your bond? All right. Mr. Christian, so he's required to have no contact with you and to stay away from your location. Do you have any questions?
Okay, I also wanted to do a TPO. Would I do that through you guys, or how would I do that?
This is the state court. This is the state court of Fulton County. We do not have jurisdiction over protective orders. You would have to approach the Fulton County Superior Court, the State Family Division, or speak to an attorney.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next case, please. And I think that concludes all the other, we just have our pleas left.
Apologize, Judge Law. The stay away for the case that we just did for Mr. Cooper was the West Marietta Street.
800 West Marietta Street.
Thank you.
Did we do Perez?
Perez
is going to be a medical reset.
Okay. Oh, I lost my pen. Okay. Let me just go over the cases before I address the pleas, so I can. Position 1, Actus was the $3,000 signature bond through pretrial. Position 2 is a $1,500 surety bond reset June 27. Position 3, Bennett's a 2,000 signature bond through pretrial for the notice. Position 4 is a $4,500 surety bond reset June 27. Position 5 is a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial for the notice. Position 6 is a $2,000 pretrial bond through for the notice. Position 7, Harmon, and that's going to You know what? I didn't write down the bond amount.
That will be a plea, Your Honor.
I don't think we've done Harmon. He's supposed to be a plea.
Oh, he's the plea. Okay, sorry about that. Position 8, Hayes is going to be a plea. Position 9, Jenkins is $1,000 surety, reset June 27. Position 10, Johnson's a 2,500 surety bond, reset date is June 27. Position 11, Littman is a $4,000 signature bond for pretrial, further notice, with a co-signer in that case. Position 12, Macon's a $2,000 signature bond for pretrial, further notice. Same announcement for Mr. Shimada, 2,000 signature bond to pretrial. 13, McIntosh is a 2,000 signature bond to pretrial, further notice. 14, Perez is going to be a medical reset. Next court date is going to be June 14th at 2 p.m. Position 15, Pinckney is going to be a $4,000 split bond, reset date June 27th. Position 16, Presley is a 2,500 surety bond, reset June 27th. 17, Shimada, $2,000 signature bond for pretrial. 18, Van Dyne's a 2,500 signature bond for pretrial. 19, Washington's a 3,000 signature bond for pretrial. 20 is going to be a $10,000 split bond. Further notice to June 27. Position 31, Wingfield is a $2,000 signature bond for pretrial, further notice.
So
All
all
right.
trial bonds are per judge except for Shimada.
Okay. Moving on to position number 7, Jeremiah Harmon, middle name Tondel, 23 CR 003-746E. He's accused of loitering and prowling and willful obstruction of an officer. Mr. Harmon, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney, I gather, is going to be withdrawing from the case since you are entering a plea in this case. Are you willing to waive your right to counsel and proceed self-represented? Mr. Harmon?
Yes.
What I mean is that since you have decided to take a plea, the public defender's office will not be representing you. So you do not have an attorney representing you for this hearing or to give you any legal advice as to what happens if you decide to enter a guilty plea. Please remember that if you represent yourself, any legal decision you make, you will be responsible on how it impacts your personal situation, your residency if applicable, any open jobs, any open cases that you may have. Would you still like to proceed self-represented, that is without an attorney?
Am I allowed to have an attorney?
You are allowed to have an attorney, but I have to reset the case for a plea because the public defender's office is not going to represent you at this time, since they don't have enough time to investigate the case. What would you like to do?
I'll represent myself.
All right. So you're waiving your right to counsel. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Herring, what are the terms of the plea?
Okay, that answers that question. I'm the one doing the pleas. This is Mr. Harmon.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Harmon's plea recommendation. Oh, this is a plea. One moment, Your Honor. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. The font's really small. As to count 1, 12 months probation, 1 day in jail, commuted time served, balance suspended, stay away from Georgia Tech property. Count 2, state's recommendation is time served. Is the note I have. Defense counsel, does that comport with your understanding of the plea?
There's no defense counsel. It's waived his right.
He's pro se. Okay. Mr. Harmon, is that your understanding of what you be pleading to?
You repeat it one more time?
It's 12 months probation. There's 1 day in jail, but that's commuted to the time you've already served. Stay away from Georgia Tech property. With respect to count 2, it would be time served.
I was told and I communicated that the balance will be suspended, the probation.
I believe that's what is.
I do see balance suspended. Yes, you're right. You're right. So the plea recommendation, the way it's written, it says 12 months probation, 1 day in jail, commute time served, then balance suspended. So
it's understood as time served.
Essentially, that's what it looks like.
Okay. And Ms. Herring, has the state already sent the paperwork to Mr. Harmon to review so that he can sign off on it, and then we can obtain the plea sheets before I start asking Mr. Harmon questions?
It's been signed.
Okay.
All right.
I didn't know the answer. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Herring. Mr. Harmon? So basically what the recommendation from the prosecutors is if you decide to plead guilty to loitering and prowling and willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer, these convictions will show up on your criminal history record. And the sentence would be to serve 1 day in jail, and the remainder of the time will be suspended and the case will be closed. However, you cannot return to any property that's owned by Georgia Tech. Are you willing to accept these terms?
So I have 1 day in jail pending, or did I already serve?
You've already served your time in jail.
Okay.
You'll be released within 24 hours, but you cannot return to any property that belongs to the Institute of Technology of Georgia, which means Georgia Tech. Are these the terms to which you've agreed?
So I'll be released tomorrow?
You'll be released within 24 hours.
So not after this case?
It takes 24 hours to process an inmate for discharge.
I see. Okay. I just lost my train of thought.
Well, have a seat, think about it, and I'll come back to you.
All right.
Addressing Ms. Hayes, and that is position 8, 23 CR 0037555G. Ms. Debbie Hayes is charged with possession and use of a drug-related object. She's represented by Ms. McLeod. Ms. McLeod, is your client willing to proceed with the plea hearing?
She is, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Hayes, if you please unmute ACDC. Thank you, Deputy Milton. Ms. Hayes, do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Herring, is this a 12 months to serve 1 day, credit for time served 1 day, balance suspended?
Your Honor, the plea paperwork that was left for me is signed by Ms. Falk, but I don't actually see a recommendation written in.
So what was the state's offer to Ms. McLeod?
Well, that's what I'm trying to ascertain, because this is the only reference point I have. Let me see if I can find it. Or defense counsel, can you recount what?
Ms. McLeod?
Yes, I received an email which said it was an offer for her to spend 1 day, credit for time served 1 day, and that was it. It was a time served plea. I'm happy to share that email.
And from whom did you receive that email?
I received it from Miss Wills.
Oh, okay. And Miss Wills, it was forwarded from the prosecutor's office? Who was the identified prosecutor?
Let me look at.
Anyone can.
I will look at it again.
I believe so, Your Honor. I also was CC'd and I saw it, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, we'll honor any offer that was conveyed. I'm covering for Ms. Falk, and I didn't have the offer in here, but we will obviously.
It came from Ms. Falk and was forwarded.
All right.
So the state will honor whatever offer Ms. Falk made.
Time served.
Okay, excellent. And Ms. McLeod, do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Ms. Hayes, have you drunk any alcohol or taken any medicine today?
No.
All right. And are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes.
All right. If you decide to plead guilty to possession of a drug-related object, the glass pipe, you would have to give up your right to go back to court and have a trial. Are you prepared to give up that right?
Yes,
You're giving up your right to challenge any evidence that's brought against you. Are you prepared to give up that right?
yes,
And you're giving up your right to have the prosecutor try to prove the charge against you. Are you prepared to give up that right?
yes,
How do you plead to possession of a drug-related object?
guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 1 day, credit for time served 1 day. The remainder of the time is suspended, which means that your jail time is over and you will be released. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
So who has
Thank
the paperwork, the plea paperwork that would be sent over?
I have it right here. She signed it and I have to get it scanned to my email and then I gotta forward it.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Milton. Please forward it to Casey Strong. Do you have her email?
I'll pull it up.
I'll put it in the chat.
All right, I'll go to my computer and write it down.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we're moving back. Ms. McLeod, I think that concludes your case. Thank you so much.
Yes, Your Honor. You're
All right.
welcome.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you, Your Honor.
McLeod. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Okay, best of luck to you, Ms.
Thank
Hay.
you.
And I did speak with your daughters and she confirmed everything you told me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. McLeod. All right, going back to Mr. Cresswell, no, not Cresswell, Mr. Harmon, excuse me, Mr. Harmon. Now that he's taken a stretch and thought about it, Mr. Harmon, are we ready to move forward with the plea?
Yes.
And you've heard the terms of the plea. Are you willing to accept it?
Yes.
And listen very carefully. In order for me to proceed with this plea hearing, I need to place you under oath. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay, pick up your other right hand and say yes. Yes?
Yes.
Do you agree that the identity of the defendant is you? In other words, they've arrested the correct person?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you agree that the alleged offense of loitering and prowling and obstruction of an officer occurred in Fulton County, Georgia?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And do you agree that the prosecutor has the correct factual basis to support the 2 charges against you?
The correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, was that a yes or no?
Yes.
Have you consumed any medication or alcohol?
No.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yeah.
Did you understand the documents which you were required to review and sign?
Yeah.
Did you understand the portion where they talked about you having to give up your rights to a trial? Mr. Harmon, did you understand the document that you had to review? If you don't understand, you can simply say no.
Well, not 100%, but not 100%.
All right. Would you need the assistance of counsel to go over these documents?
I am prepared to represent him for a bond hearing.
All right. Mr. Harmon, I am not going to accept the plea today. I don't believe that you have a full understanding of what entering a guilty plea will do and how it will impact your situation. You may proceed with your bond hearing, Ms. Wills.
Well, I would like to hear the recommendation from the state.
All right. Mr. Howard, do you have a GCIC for Jeremiah Harmon?
Well, the only reason why I didn't understand it is because it's my first time having a court case. So the words, like the wording and the structure, I didn't really get, behind the plea. Like, I just want to
Right.
make sure I got everything before I just say, you know, yes or no.
Understood. That's why Ms. Wills is stepping in and she's going to argue for a bond at the present time. We're going to reset your case for a plea hearing once she has a chance to investigate the case and then make her best possible advice to you, as well as to explain to you what a plea hearing is all about. So Mr. Howard, what is
I gotta do it all over again?
Mr. Harmon?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak, but listen to my questions. And if it's directed at you, you can speak. If it's not directed at you, you have to remain silent. Okay?
All right.
Mr. Howard, what is Mr. Harmon's pretrial history?
He is not on the call.
Yeah, he said his laptop died. I just sent him an email and told him that you were.
All right. Ms. Herring, do you have Mr. Harmon's GCIC?
I show that this is his first arrest, that he already had a preset $2,000 surety bond, 1,000 for each charge. So that's all I have as far as his history.
All right. And Ms. Wills?
What is the bond recommendation from the state?
The bond recommendation is that is the bond in place remain the $2,000 surety bond. I'm sorry, no. The recommendation is $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services, 1,000 per charge. Stay away from Georgia Tech property. No alcohols, drugs, or weapons.
I would have no objection. I would ask for his the signature bond to go through the jail.
All right. Mr. Harmon, is your address currently in Blue Island, Illinois?
Yes.
And
Well,
you live in Illinois?
yeah, I did, but now I live out here. It's not my current address.
He is currently residentially challenged, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. His bond is going to be set at $3,000, $2,000 on the loitering and prowling, $1,000 on the willful obstruction. It's going to be a $3,000 signature bond through the jail. Mr. Harmon must provide us with a mailing address within 30 days of being released. He would need to go to the clerk's office and provide us with a valid mailing address so we can send him notice of when his next court date is. He is to stay away from all property that belongs to the Georgia Tech University, especially the Georgia Tech Crossland Library, Towers Library, and I believe that's located at 704 Cherry Street in Northwest Atlanta. He's to stay away from all Georgia Tech property, especially the library.
Yeah, I don't have the 3,000 bond. That's what I was.
I'm going to explain that to you. So today you don't have to pay for the bond, but you'll have to sign for it. Do you understand?
Yeah. Well, no, but no, I don't understand because that was.
A signature bond is one that you sign for the bond, but you don't have to pay anything as long as you comply with the conditions of the bond. You will be released, but you will be required to come back to court at some future date. And then you will have to address the case with your attorney. This will still be an open, active case against you.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
Okay.
So what would I come back to court for?
We will send you notice to the address that you provide. That's why once you are released from the Fulton County Jail, you must come back to the courthouse and provide us your address in writing. Within 30 days from today.
I don't have an address like currently, so
you have 30 days to get an address and provide it to the court. Whatever address you provide. Currently, we have this Blue Island, Illinois address. If that is the wrong address and you don't show up to court in a future date, we will issue a warrant for your arrest for failure to appear.
So I have to come back all the way here?
You have to come back all the way here. You have an open, active case against you.
Oh.
Meanwhile, you are not to return to any Georgia Tech property. Do you understand?
So I can't do the plea now?
No.
Yeah, because I don't have any of the requirements met to come back to court.
There is one reason why you do not take the plea today, because you have absolutely no understanding of what a plea hearing is. And I have the discretion to disregard a plea at the present time until I believe that you understand what's going on.
Right. Could I use an email address?
I need an address
Your
and
Honor,
email
if I can-
address and a phone number.
If I can call the jail and further explain to Mr. Harmon, I'll be glad to speak with him.
Excellent, thank you. That concludes our calendar. Position number 7 is a $3,000 signature bond, a jail signature bond through the jail, and further notice for trial. Stay
Your
away.
Honor,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you said it concludes the calendar. I have a Mr. Cresswell. Did we address that? Brian Cresswell?
Brian Cresswell was a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial further notice. And he's-
Okay, I had him as a plea, but I guess he's not a plea.
No, he
Okay.
changed his mind. And he's to stay away from the Methodist Church.
Okay,
Yeah, further notice also.
thank you, Judge.
All right, Ms. Wills, I'm going to count on you to explain to Mr. Harmon, because I'm not going anywhere with that. Okay,
Do my best, Your Honor.
thank you. All right, that concludes our calendar. And Ms. Young, you okay? You all good? Not Ms. Young, Ms. Strong.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm good. I'll
Okay.
send you the information. I'll send you the paperwork over now.
All
And
right.
if the jail, I'm sorry, if the jail can just hold Mr. Harmon for one moment, I'm gonna call right now.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
May we be excused?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you, Judge.
And Casey, thank you, Ms. Herring. Good work, Mr. Robinson and Ms. Chung. Look forward to seeing you again, maybe at SAP, or maybe even at Orca jury trial. That would be even more fun. Okay, take care.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Bye-bye.